Korea says it is on the brink of war because of actions by the United States.
There are 28,000 U.S. troops here in South Korea.
North Korea will have a missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead to the American mainland.
It's impossible to overstate the danger associated with this.
Most Americans are worried that North Korea's nuclear weapons program could lead to war.
It represents the greatest crisis, undoubtedly, since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
And the time for talking is running out.
They will be met fire and fury like the world has never seen.
This is where we are right now, Kunsan Air Force Base. You can see where we are in relation to North Korea.
We're going up in the air in the tip of the spear, the F-16 Viper. It's going to be piloted by Captain Ryan Clissett, call sign Rico. He's going to take me up in the F-16, show me what it can do.
1000 Charlie 51. Full 01 readback is correct. Have we got flight?
Within moments of an attack from North Korea, jets from the 8th Fighter Wing, known as the Wolfpack, would take off from Kunsan and take out targets across the border, just 10 minutes away in an F-16.
All right, so here in a couple miles, I'm going to check left. Target's going to be at our right, 3 o'clock, 90 degrees out. I'm going to roll in. Do you want to take the controls for just a second? Sure. Whoa! Oh, man. Yeah, she's quite a nimble little aircraft.
Our wingman flying with us over the Korean Peninsula is Colonel David G. Shoemaker, call sign Wolf, commander of Kunsan Air Force Base.
Wolf, this is Vlad. Copy. Loud, clear, Vlad. I wonder if you could explain the unique capabilities of the Viper. It is unique to have a single-seat aircraft that can go out and do that air-to-air mission, and then take bombs to the target and take care of the bad guys on the ground also.
We are only less than 200 miles away from the DMZ. This base is defended by thousands of airmen. We wanted to find out what's it like to wake up every single morning knowing that the enemy lies just a couple hundred miles away, knowing that they're in the gun sights of Kim Jong-un.
Estimates show a war on the Korean Peninsula could leave 1 million dead. And that's the doomsday scenario without the use of any nuclear weapons. If they were used, the situation could have consequences unlike the world has ever seen. Seoul, the capital of South Korea, is home to 25 million people and lies just 35 miles from the border. Japan, a country with dozens of U.S. military bases, lies just off the coast. Last month, a North Korean intercontinental ballistic missile test put Hawaii and Alaska within striking distance. A second test put almost every major U.S. city in range. And just last week, a U.S. intelligence report showed North Korea can now arm those long-range missiles with nuclear weapons, threatening tens of millions here in the United States. While F-16s would take the fight north, keeping the base operational would be vital. So the airmen at Kunsan train daily to defend against a ground assault.
We're riding along in a convoy with the 8th Security Forces. Their mission here in Korea is to protect and defend this base. There's some smoke that's been popped there. We're gonna make our way up to this ridge here. Right now you can see they've formed this perimeter here, and we're at the highest point at Kunsan Air Force Base. From here, you can see the entire base, and that's why it's such a crucial vantage point. These airmen have to defend the runways. This security, this defense of this base allows them to take the fight to the north.
But to do that, we obviously need to have a place that we can safely do that. Therefore, we defend the base, and we do that every single day. It's a great fighter.
It's a primary mission for Colonel Shoemaker, given his proximity to the border.
Here we sit 150 miles from the bad guy with 2,800 airmen ready to go. All of us here want peace on the peninsula. We hope that this nastiness that you see around you is enough to deter any aggression. But if we are called upon, may God have mercy on the Wolfpack's prey.
That might be of little comfort in Seoul, where people would have just seconds to react in the event of an attack. Shelters and vast underground subway systems could safeguard up to 10 million residents, but we find that most here aren't that worried. They're more stressed about finding love and job security than the nuclear-armed tyrant on their doorstep.
I don't really fear him.
I'm not really scared or anything.
There's no use in being scared. There's a likely chance that I'll probably die, and what can you do?
That may be because the threat of an attack goes back over 60 years to the Korean War, which divided these two countries. Recent tests showing Kim Jong-un can now hit the U.S. means Americans live under that threat as well. A launch of this type would be detected over 4,500 miles away at Honolulu's Hickam Air Force Base in Hawaii. We flew across the Pacific to meet General Terrence O'Shaughnessy, who gave us rare access into the classified Air Operations Center of Pacific Command, where they watch over half of the world's skies in real time.
So we're talking all the way from India to Antarctica to North Korea to China. The hub of it, all the activity happens right here.
If it flies in that 52%?
We're seeing it right here.
While the U.S. could see an ICBM coming, there's still question as to whether it could be reliably intercepted. 3 of 5 recent tests of the Missile Defense Shield have failed, but tests continue, and the U.S. plans to have 44 ground-based interceptors by year's end. Still, the most immediate threat lies on the Korean Peninsula.
The delay won't be measured in days, the delays will be measured in casualties, and therefore we take that responsibility very seriously, and that's why we've made sure that we are in fact ready to fight tonight.
Secretary Mattis said that a retaliation from North Korea would probably be the worst kind of fighting in most people's lifetimes.
If North Korea brings us to this fight, we have to be able to respond quickly to minimize the casualties that would happen.
What do you say to family, loved ones about the airmen that are here under your command?
Well, I'd say they should be very proud of the airmen here. What they do every single day is ultimately about preventing war, not fighting the war.
But the war of words escalates.
They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
North Korea is using President Trump's fire and fury comments as well as the new UN sanctions to rally its people.
More rhetoric from North Korea. There's a threat of a strike against Guam.
Just last week, Kim Jong-un put Guam, home to more than 6,000 troops and 160,000 Americans, directly in his crosshairs.
We've arrived here at Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. This wing is considered a power projection platform. We're about 2,100 miles away from North Korea, but that doesn't really matter because this base can accept assets from anywhere in the world and launch them and take the fight to our enemies.
This base has the largest capacity for fuel and munitions in the Air Force and can respond to threats from the Middle East, Asia, and across the Pacific. Colonel Sam White has spent his career among these bombers.
In a worst-case scenario, how quickly can this airfield get up to speed?
So we stand ready to respond to a wide range of things at the president's call. That's the reason why we have the continuous power of president's mission, is to give the president of the United States sovereign options against threats to the U.S. So we're ready today.
And they've had to prove that multiple times in recent weeks. On July 29th, the day after North Korea's latest successful ICBM launch, 2 U.S. B-1 bombers took off from this airfield and flew over 2,000 miles to the North Korean border in a show of force. The B-1, also known as the Bone, is capable of carrying more arms than any other bomber in the Air Force, and its air crews can attest. It's also among the loudest.
Especially being out here because you get to feel the rumble of them. Wow.
When a B-1 goes into a particular region, it sends a very strong message that the United States means business.
Well, our first step is deterrence, obviously. However, if the combatant commander calls upon us, the B-1 is a very credible and lethal force.
What sets the Bone apart?
I think it's 3 things, and it's all 3 of them together: speed, persistence, and payload. So we can get where we're going fast, we can then stay there for a long time, and we bring a lot of bombs with us.
You're looking at what airmen call haze igloos, stretching along this road for about half a mile. 15 million pounds of net explosive conventional munitions. They're built by the 36th Munitions Squadron,
Each of these bombs weigh 2,000 pounds. We generally crank each one of these out in about 8 minutes time.
8 minutes time?
Yes, sir.
You can build one of these?
Yes, sir.
And which one are we building today?
It's an advanced penetrator, often referred to as a bunker buster. It can actually penetrate concrete, and reinforced even.
What kind of force are we talking about? When we say, 2,000 pounds, what kind of devastation are we looking at?
If anything ever goes wrong for these, we always play on the realm of safety, evacuate at 4,000 feet.
4,000 feet?
Yes, sir.
Due to North Korea's difficult mountainous terrain and deep bunkers, these types of munitions could be of vital importance in the event of a conflict. But to make it there and back, the B-1s will need to be refueled mid-air by KC-135.
Approaching. So we're down here, the back end of the KC-135. Technical Sergeant Jonathan Myers is the boom operator on this flight. This is a real delicate operation here because he's got to control that nozzle that's extending from the back of the KC-135 using that joystick there. Flying at more or less the same speed as this aircraft and get the nozzle into that fuel pump, which doesn't look like it's more than 2 or 3 inches in diameter. That's his 15K. That's your 15K. Contact. You can see the sheer size of this aircraft. This is a perspective very few people ever get to see. And this is a critical component of force projection in the United States Air Force because by this process, these B-1s are able to fly for extended periods of time and project force in a particular region. I'm going to disconnect right now and then retracting slowly. There it is, peeling off to the left. And there she goes. Check the videos, guys. No problem, guys.
Back in Hawaii, Admiral Harry Harris, commander of all American forces in the Pacific, is commissioning the first naval ship in the region that could shoot down potential ballistic missiles from North Korea.
As North Korea's recent ICBM test demonstrates, the USS John Finn couldn't come to the Indo-Asia Pacific at a more pivotal moment in our nation's history.
Would it be in the strategic interest of the United States to prevent Kim Jong-un from ever getting to the point where he could put a nuclear warhead on an ICBM?
Well, I think that's a question for our national leaders. My job is to provide options to the Secretary of Defense and the President, hard power options, and that's what I do. Kim Jong-un, he's one of these dictators that's not afraid to fail in public, so he continues to refine his technology.
He wants to put a nuclear warhead on an ICBM. What does that mean?
Well, it means that the United States will now live under the threat of a nuclear attack from North Korea.
We spoke with the Admiral in the shadow of the USS Arizona, the final resting place for over 2,300 sailors, Marines, and soldiers killed in the surprise attack at Pearl Harbor, which brought the United States into World War II. The war that followed resulted in the first and only use of atomic weapons when the United States dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, 72 years later, the Pacific Theater is on the edge of another terrible conflict.
In my opinion, we can't get our most advanced assets here fast enough. But we're ready to fight, and to fight.